If you're like a lot of people, you may have dreamed of living on a sunny island somewhere in the Caribbean, in the tropics. But if you're a nomad capitalist, you might have dreamed of that as well as a place where you could pay very little tax. In this video, I'm going to tell you all the countries in the Americas where you can live tax-free. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and in this episode, we're going to talk about tax-free countries in the Americas. Not America, not the United States, but in the greater Americas. And so one of the great things about this part of the world is that it is the new world. That means it's a lot more open for immigration. It means in some cases it's possible to become a citizen of the country more easily than you could in a European or an Asian country because they're so used to immigration. It's kind of baked into their culture. So let's talk about places where you can live and not pay any tax. One of the things that I think is very important to understand, we talk about it a lot, is that there's both a personal side to tax and there's a business side to tax. So if you're running a business, some of these countries will tax your business, others won't. It's important to make sure that both sides of the equation are handled appropriately. So let's go through all the countries in this part of the world where you can live tax-free. I think there are actually a higher number of countries and territories in the Americas than anywhere else in the world where you can actually do this, where the tax rate is 0%. So right off the bat, you've got the Cayman Islands, not technically a country. Bermuda, also not technically a country. The Bahamas, zero tax. Also, two of the Caribbean citizenship countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, also Antigua and Barbuda, zero tax. Again, not always necessarily on business and personal. A little bit of planning may be required, and it's always recommended, but zero tax for individuals. So the Cayman Islands, for example, this is really the Monaco of the Americas. I think a lot of people look at the Cayman Islands, they think it's a great place to go, but the requirements to immigrate there are rather high. You're either going to start a very expensive company, or you're going to have to buy expensive real estate. Not only expensive in terms of price per meter, but just it's expensive overall. And so if you have a lot of money, if you're looking for, as I said, the Monaco of the Americas, the Cayman Islands is a great place. Bermuda, also not cheap. Bahamas, potentially also not cheap. What I like about the Bahamas is they actually give you residence faster depending on how much money you invest. So if you buy a cheaper home, they will take longer potentially to process your application than if you spend more money, like $500,000 gets you processed faster than $250,000. So to me, that just happens to make sense. And so those countries, you can get residence permits in them through things like starting companies, buying property. If you want to lock in your tax savings, though, Antigua is an interesting place, as is St. Kitts, because both of those countries have a 0% headline rate on personal income. So you don't pay any tax on your personal income. And probably, in my mind, the best way to get into those countries would just be to make a donation through their citizenship by investment program. $125,000 basically in the case of Antigua right now, $150,000 and up in the case of St. Kitts, and you're locked in. Obviously, their policies could change, and I do think in the future you'll probably have some of these countries, especially smaller countries with less ability to push back, you'll probably see what I call the Andorra effect, where people come in and try and get them to put some kind of at least small tax, 5%. But the policy can always change, but at least you'll always have the ability to live in these countries. And I think taxes will be, if not zero, very low in these countries. Other ways that you could potentially live tax-free in countries that aren't themselves tax-free, that don't have a 0% tax rate, are what we talk about a lot. We talk about territorial tax countries. Now again, these require some proper planning. People think they could just go and run their one-man corporation from a territorial tax country and be totally exempt from tax. That's not always the case, but you do have 3 countries in Central America. If you're less interested in the island lifestyle, you can go to Panama, you can go to Costa Rica, you can go to Nicaragua, and you can live in a territorial tax country. It means money earned outside of the country will be left alone. And so, especially if you've got passive income, but if you run a business, this is a great way to go and live somewhere that's on the mainland, has a bit more going on. Panama City, obviously, a relatively world-class city. Costa Rica, great beaches. Nicaragua, interesting, kind of more up and coming, a little bit less expensive. I think those are also very interesting options, and residence, depending on where you're from, but residence generally in those countries is pretty straightforward. As little as $5,000 in the bank in the case of Panama for many people, $30,000, $50,000 in real estate investment in some cases. They're pretty easy to get in. The third way to live tax-free in the Americas is through various tax exemptions. Again, these require proper planning, but for example, you can go to Uruguay, and for certain types of income, they have actually a multi-year exemption where you could go and you could live tax-free for a while. So you can go and get your fill and then move on to the next place. This is actually one of the easiest ways in Europe to pay less tax, or even zero tax, is by taking advantage of a part-time exemption. So there aren't as many of those in the Americas. I think Uruguay is one option that jumps out at me. But if you're looking to go somewhere for a limited period of time, that could be something you could go and set up and spend some of your time living tax-free there as well. So I'd love to hear which of these countries appeals to you, because what's fascinating in working with people is, as much as everyone fantasizes about the islands, most people, in fact, very few people that I talk to actually end up going and living on an island. So I'd like to hear your comments. Leave a comment here and tell me, which of these countries most interests you? Which of these countries least interests you? Because at the end of the day, if you're actually living this, you want to find a place that really appeals to you as a person, not just as a tax rate. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.